Hi everybody, this is Tor Storley and I am back with another video. I thought in this video I'll do a follow-up on the GPT-3 APIs from OpenAI and specifically look at how you can generate images using DALL-E 2, and you can perform some sentiment analysis, and also how you can use it to explain your code. So I'll set up a Colab notebook using Python code. So I will try to make that available at the after I'm done with this video and put it out on my GitHub repository. Yeah, let's get started and have some fun with GPT-3's APIs. In order for you to do anything, you need to go and get a key from OpenAI for the APIs. So I'm set up a screenshot here, as you can see, using OpenAI.com's portal here. And I happen to have a Google account, so I'm just going to try to connect with that. And I'm going to use my login. And it opens up this page here. And this is basically where the GPT-3 APIs are located. It will give you some welcome screen here, and it's going to show you how you can build these applications. And in my previous video related to the GPT-3 API, I went through some of this, not in too much depth, but I showed some of the basics. So what you probably want to do is you want to go to and get a key. If you have an API key, then it should be listed here and you can use it. Also, you can also create a new secret key like this. So under Users API Keys, make sure you have a key. And once you have a key, you can start, doing stuff on this playground here. And over here on the right-hand side, you have a list over all kinds of models that you can use. There are some parameters you can set, like the temperature and the max length for the tokens. And you can set up stop sequences. And I briefly touched on this last time. Best thing for you to do is to go into the documentation. And under documentation, you can read up on what these APIs are doing and also give you a quick start tutorial. So what we're interested in today is this image generation. And also I want to do some code analysis and some sentiment analysis. So that would be like a machine learning algorithm. So one thing I suggest you do is to go into these examples, find the type of topic you're looking for. For example, SQL Translate. And they will give you how they set up the prompts. And they will also tell you the parameters they've used to do this. So take a look at this. And then you have the API Python code you can copy. Or you can copy, if you prefer, Node.js, curl, or JSON. So here you can see how the code snippet will look. So with that said, I'm going to open up my notebook and then we can get started. So I created this GPT-3 _ part 2 notebook in Colab. And the first thing we want to do is to install the OpenAI libraries. You can do that by saying this bang pip install OpenAI. So let's run that, and I'll let it run, and then I'll pause it because it might take a few minutes. Okay, so as you can see, it's done, and it produced a bunch of output. I grabbed the zip file, as you can see up here, this GZ, and it opened this up, and it set it up for us. So I'm going to just get rid of all these output here. And the next thing I want to do is to import the OpenAI library, and I also want to import this matplotlib pyplot library as PLT. So let me run that. Next, what I want is I need a API security key, the one that allows me to talk to GPT-3. So I'm dragging the key text file in here. So now I'm ready to open that and read it in to a variable here, an API key for OpenAI library. So in order to do that, I'm just running this little code snippet here that reads that file and drag in the content of that file, and I'm going to load it into this this particular variable right here. So let me just run this code here. And keep in mind, this file will be gone when you quit this runtime, when you cancel this runtime. So in other words, if you interrupt or you restart this runtime, that file will disappear. So it's good for now, but it will go away. The next thing I want to do is I want to create this, and I had to finish this, but I can show you this since I'm at it anyway. So let me just get rid of this part. And what I wanted to say was, I added a text node, like here. And when you do, it looks like this. So let me just finish that so you at least can see a thing here. Notice you can bold, italicize, you can format as code here. You can see this, P2 like this. And then I want to say italicize. But I also want to put it in like a code format, like this one. In order to do that, I put a little tick mark here, and I put a little tick mark in here. And what I want to do also, DALL-E is written with a period sign, but it's a period that is occurring in the center of those letters. So if I try a regular one, it will look like this. That's not really what I want. Like down here, you can see it. I want to try to put it in the center. And one thing you can do here, you can use LaTeX. So by clicking here, it will give you a drop list of things here. And you can see the symbol over on the left, and then you can see how you arrive at this. So what I'm interested in is actually finding that period sign. So you can see it right here. So I'm going to hit that, and now I have that period sign in the center, and then I put another E in, and then when I click out of it, you can see now it looks like this, which is kind of what I wanted. So that's just a little side note about using the LaTeX. You can write formulas and everything in here in the text cells. All right, so next thing I want to do is I want to create a caller function that's going to actually create the image out there on DALL-E 2. And the way that works is that it will call this OpenAI image create function, which talks to DALL-E 2. You pass in your prompt text, which whatever you want to prompt for, what kind of the text to image you want to use, and then an image size. And then all I want to do is return this. And by the way, this comes back as a URL link. So we're going to take this and build on this. So let me just run this function. All right, so now I set up the image call function that's going to get the URL to the image we're creating. The next thing is I grabbed some of this code actually from, I don't know if I got it from Stack Overflow or where I got it from. But anyways, I grabbed this code and I placed it into this cell. This is basically going to take care of figuring out the size of the image and the figure and how to set up this whole thing and so forth. And then it's going to show it using matplotlib. So let me just run this function. And there you go. So the next thing now is to kind of build on this and kind of make it a little more user-friendly. So what I do here is that particular function you saw above here, this one, I kind of wanted to see if GPT-3 can explain this function to me, what it's doing. So I just copied that function you see there, and I simply stuck it inside 3 quote marks. And I have 3 quotes marked down here. After the PLT show, I put another line, new line there, and then I put those 3 in there. So that's the code prompt I want to analyze. So let's take that. And the next thing is to actually create the function that's going to call the explain code. And it's going to call this OpenAI completion create function. And I'm going to pass in what kind of model I want to use. And I'm going to pass in basically this whole prompt here, as you can see over here. So you have the text prompt. And then whatever model I want to use, I'm going to pass in here as well. I added a new line. And then I said, here is what the code is doing. And followed by a new line. And then I have a 1, period, and a space. Now this is going to set up this code and it's going to put, here's what the code does here under this. and then it's going to set up a new line, and then it's going to set 1 dot, because I want to see it in a numeric form, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So that's what I'm doing here. Then I set up some more max tokens. It was a little low. This code prompt you can find under explain code out on those examples, but I upped it a little bit. I changed it around a little bit, so it's not identical to that one. One thing I'll do also is I use this stop sequence. And because the quote marks inside the code there is Python specific, I'll use escape characters in front of it. And that's what this is doing, the stop sequence. Okay, output is going to come in form of a response. It brings back a JSON file that has like choices, and then you have some indentation, and then you get some text. And I'm interested in the URL stuff, so that's what I want to use. So I set up my code model in the first case to be the code DaVinci-002. I'm going to call that function that I just generated above here, and then I'm going to pass in the prompt, and I'm going to pass in the code model. So I'm basically going to pass in the DaVinci as the code model, and I'm going to pass in that huge text string here as my prompt. So as you can see, it finished. Now when I look at this output, it looks a little messy, and it looks like it's repeating too. So sometimes this doesn't really work out exactly the way you expect it. And there could be a reason for that. There could be that you have too much spaces here, or you have an extra new line here, or whatever. So you might have to look into, see how you can maybe fix this. Maybe it has something to do with this new line here and this new line here. In any event, it produced this code explanation. And if you look at it, it says, here is what the code is doing. We read the image data using some image read function, it says here. We create a figure the size of 10 by 5 inches. We display the first image in the first subplot. So it does some weird stuff here. And I quite frankly don't really like this output. And I think I want to try this again. So I'm going to basically remove the output here because I want to try to extract it. In this case, I'm not going to use the code DaVinci-002. Instead, I'm going to use the text DaVinci-003 and see if that one will work at all. So let me try it. So I'm going to run that, and I'll still it and wait for it. So as you can see, it explains, I think, even better. It says the code is setting the DPI, dots per inch, to 80, which means that the output image will have 80 pixels per inch. Then it calculates the size of the figure needed to fit the image by dividing the width and the height of the image by the DPI. It is then creating a figure. So it goes on here and tries to explain this. And finally, it's displaying the image using this image show function. So it's kind of what it's doing. If you look at it here, it creates the figure size, it computes the width, height, and depth, and then it calculates the figure size based on the DPIs, as you can see. So it did a fairly decent job of explaining this thing here. But with any of these, you got to be careful, because you really got to kind of know the answer before you actually create it and see if it makes sense, because it could just produce a bunch of nonsense, and then you're stuck with it if you don't double check it. Notice also that I use a temperature of 0, which means I don't want it to have any randomness at all. I want it to be a straight shooter. I want it to be explaining exactly without trying to make up something new. Why don't we try it out and see what happens? So to make it a little more interesting, what I did was I created this dictionary here, and I just thought of some topics, and then I just put in some basic text and see what the DALL-E 2 will do. So I created something called Shakespeare as a key, tiger as a key, and mountain as a key. Now, every time I run this, I'm getting different things. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. So I got Shakespeare key that basically says, Shakespeare walking in a park in a photorealistic style. And then I have a tiger. It says, wild Siberian tiger in deep winter snow in a photorealistic style. And then I have mountain, beautiful, wild, majestic, realistic mountains, panorama view. Do I have to add this too? I don't know. Let me just add it. All right, let's just stick that in there. So let me run this function now. This dictionary. So now I created a dictionary object. And what I did down here, what you can do, I'm going to open this so you can see it. I created this drop list in Colab, and it's pretty straightforward. You click those 3 dots, and you say add a form. Once you open the form here, you can say add a form field. So it has some option here, you can create it. So that's what that is doing. So let me remove that and just use this one. So I'll show you. Over here is what Colab is using to produce this, the first 2 lines here, and then I print some information from those. So the way that works is I'll have a drop list here for the size of the image that I want to produce. So I just simply added a couple of items here, a 256 by 256, a 512 by 512, and a 1024 by 1024. So that is the drop list on the top first, the size of the image you want to bring back. The second one is simply the keys of that dictionary I showed you, mountain, tiger, and Shakespeare. And that's all I do there. And then I just load them into 2 variables here, and those are the ones I want to use. So that's what happens here. So if I, for example, change my image here to be Shakespeare, you can see over here it changed right here. And then I can say, let me get Shakespeare in 512. And now it's setting 512 here and Shakespeare here. Now you can use this without seeing this, and all you have to do is just, hide it like this. So now I chose my stuff, and then what I do is I'll get my dictionary prompt up here, and then I put in the prompt key that I chose from up here, and therefore it will load the value of that key in this prompt text, which is basically the stuff up here. For Shakespeare, it will load this part right here. All right, and then I do the same thing for the image size, whatever you set, which is 512 times 512. Then I'm creating a variable called image URL by calling this create open AI image that I showed you above. This code right here, you can see it here. And then from there, I'm going to take the result of this and pass it in here to this function and generate that matplotlib picture. So that's what we're doing down here. So now that I got everything set up, so here you can see it produced a terrible picture of Shakespeare. But anyway, it did what I asked it to do. It was Shakespeare walking in a park, so it doesn't look too photorealistic to me, but okay. Let me try a different one. Let's try the tiger in the snow, the Siberian tiger. Let me try that one. So now I choose those. Let me load those in, and let me run it one more time. In this case, I make the image much bigger, and it's going to load the value of that Siberian tiger image in here, and then display it in Matplotlib. So as you can see, it came back, and it actually looks pretty cool. It doesn't look super realistic, like photorealistic, but my experience with DALL-E is I don't think it produces as good images as you find in places like Midjourney or some of those other AI like Leonardo, anything like that. But it looks decent. It's kind of cool. And notice I set it to 1024 by 1024. So the last one I want to try out is the mountains. Let's see what that looks like. Let's make that big too so it looks cool. So let me load that and let me run it one more time here and see what that looks like. So as you can see, it came back. It more looks like a painting to me. It doesn't really look real, even though I said photorealistic style. I don't know, maybe work on the prompt or something or hope for the best, but this is basically what it produced. So that's what the image generator is doing. The last thing I should say that I want to try out is this sentiment analysis. And as you can see, I create a function here. I call OpenAI sentiment analysis. And I'm going to create a response that calls the create function. I'm going to try to use the DaVinci 003 text model. And then I got some prompts here. I have 2 sets because I wanted to show you the difference in the 2. So let me comment this up by doing the control / and then let me remove these by doing the control /. Okay, so here is some basic prompts like classify the sentiment in these tweets. Now this is not really tweets. news titles, I should call, because I took it from news titles. So you have like tech news. Intel unveils real-time deepfake detector, claims 96% accuracy ratio, double heart emojis. Next one, Turkey and Syria face the threat of a secondary disaster after earthquakes, even as dramatic rescues offers some moments of relief. Yahoo plans to cut 20% of its workers as tech layoffs pile up. OpenAI GPT-3 sucks. 2 hearts. ChatGPT rewrote my dating profile. It was a disaster. So here, as you can see, I tried to mix it up a little bit and a little bit confusing. OpenAI GPT-3 sucks, and then with 2 hearts. So that gets a little weird. So we'll have to basically see what it does. And here's my stop sequence again. Is those 3 quotes, as you can see here. So let me run this and see what happens. So let me run that function. And now we want to call that function and see what it does. So it's running, and it came back. And it says that number 1 up here, Intel unveils real-time deepfake detector, claims 96% accuracy rate. Well, as you can see, it said that was positive, which it is. It is positive. Turkey and Syria, secondary disaster, dramatic rescues. It says it's negative, which I agree with. That is a negative sentiment. Yahoo plans to cut 20% of its workers. That should technically be negative, and it does, negative. So that's good. So far, so good. OpenAI GPT sucks. 2 hearts. It says it's positive. So I don't know. I don't think the word sucks over 1 over those 2 hearts. I wonder what will happen if I do 1 heart. Let me try it and see what happens when I do 1 heart. So now number 4 is still positive, even though it sucks. Okay? All right, so that didn't work either. And ChatGPT rewrote my dating profile. It was a disaster. That is negative. So did a fairly decent job here on those kind of sentiments. Let me comment those out and try another set that I rewrote slightly. All right, so same things as before, but here I removed the hearts, as you can see. The earthquake, here I had negative up here by like a angry emoji. Here I got 2 positives for the earthquake. So let's see how it behaves then. And to cut the 20% the Yahoo jobs and 2 hearts. OpenAI GPT-3 sucks and no hearts this time. And it rewrote my dating profile. It was a disaster. I put 2 hearts in. Let's see what happens now if it thinks that makes a difference. So I ran those, and let me run the sentiment again. So the first one was neutral, which is the Intel unveils real-time deepfake detector. So even though it claims 96, so it said that was neutral. And then the second one is positive, Turkey. It says it's positive because of those 2 hearts. It looks like, because I put those 2 hearts in there. What happens if I remove those 2 hearts? Okay, so the emoji seems to have an impact on this. And as you can see for that third one, Yahoo plans to cut the jobs. It still took it as negative. And OpenAI 3 sucks. Now it's finally said it was negative because there's no hearts. And ChatGPT rewrote my dating profile. It was a disaster. It still gave it a negative, even though I had 2 emojis. So let me run this one more time, and let me run this one more time. I made that one change to Turkey. What is this? Why is it saying sad and negative and sad? What happened here? This is weird. That's not what it says. It said positive and negative before. Let me run it again here, see what happens. Okay, it's neutral, neutral, sad, negative, sad. So they actually distinguish between negative and sad. So 4 was negative, which it should be. This is sad, okay? And number 4 was sad too. So, that's very interesting. I didn't see those before. But just playing around with this, as you can see, will produce slightly different outputs. But overall, it did a fairly decent job, I think. So, all right, that's all I have for this time. And I hope you liked it. And if you do, please like and consider subscribing to my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.